to be doing, we went quickly through some of the static kind of information, or the stuff that's just pretty solid set out there in terms of your administrative rules and guidelines. And we're going to finish up here about the Oregon Association of Realtors. We are here on page 25, day 1, page 25, and we are only 8 minutes off schedule, so I'm pretty happy about that. So when we take a look at the Oregon Association of Realtors, I was wondering if you could just tell me 3 things that they do for you. What are 3 things that the Oregon Association of Realtors... That's what they do. We rock it. I love it. Okay, what?
Advocate legislatively for...
Yes, they advocate legislatively for the real estate licensing and for the organization as a whole. So excellent, do that. What else do they do for the consumer and for them? Yes.
Education resource.
Yeah, they do.
They have these conventions every year with
Education, the conventions, giving you opportunity to fine-tune your skills. Anything else that you know that the association does? Yes.
Advocate also with the real estate agency. They're kind of our direct contact, and kind of semi-monitor what they're doing because it affects our business.
Oh, you mean the agency aspect of it? They monitor that and got it. I'm going to go here and I'll be right there. Yes.
I don't know if you call it the toolkit, the toolbox, whatever
Yes.
it is that has like the disclosures and all those interesting things that help.
It's massive. They have much more. I was shocked, much more than what I've seen in a lot of other associations available for you online. So if you're not taking a look at that and having an opportunity to customize it, you're really shortchanging yourself because it's really tremendous. Over here?
Legal hotline.
Yes.
Legal hotline.
Oh, yeah.
Do they ever tell you, well, just close your doors? No, do they ever do that? No.
Fortunately, I don't think I've ever used it.
But it's nice to have that, isn't it? Isn't it nice to have that aspect where you can get an instant question? So your legal hotline, if you don't have your own attorney, this is someone else that you can go to and check
You're
with.
lucky you get Jenny.
Yes.
Yeah. And then some people just text me at all hours.
What's your cell? What's your cell?
Notice she didn't give it out, right? So, with that, I'm glad they at least recognize, what do they do for the consumer?
Well, like Jenny said earlier.
Buyers advisory.
Home Foundation.
Okay.
Home Foundation.
Anything else?
Home Foundation.
Home Foundation. Anything else? So the organization is for realtors, right? And then the public has the benefit of the stuff that they go through you, and it moves on and siphons down to the public. They also interpret a lot of things that come from the Real Estate Commission. Take a look and see how that works, and as your advocate is a big piece of what the organization does. When we look at the services, I'd like you to think about for yourself personally, and there's a spot on here to write it down, but what is something that you feel you should be taking more advantage of at the Oregon Association of Realtors? So we talked about the toolkit. Anything else that you can think?
The risk management toolkit is a little different than the place that houses all of the disclosures, but the risk management toolkit walks you through agency relationships, walks you through the contract, walks you through the history of it. If it was a physical book, it would be the most worn out thing that I ever use because I'm constantly on there, and it's a resource that most brokers don't know exists, and it's amazing. It solves problems for me all the time.
What was that called?
That should have been videoed. So the risk management toolkit that they have.
Search for it, go risk management toolkit, and then you gotta go to another link, like they hit it really well. It's my favorite thing to keep hiding.
So they're going to make note to self, right? Note to self and make that more reachable for you. Anything else that you can take advantage of?
Well, I would like to see more brokers take advantage of the governance conferences and see a higher level of attendance there.
Participation?
It's incredibly informative, and you can see exactly what OAR does, and as well as OREA. And so, yeah.
I found it interesting no one mentioned the committees.
Well, that's part of it too.
Okay.
You can sit in on the committee meetings and hear what's going on with the legislative committee. We have a new economic development committee.
Cool.
Yeah. No shortage of training there.
How many of you encourage that for your brokers to get really involved in the association and on different committees and for your boards? You do? Good. That's good. Because again, the more they know and the more educated they are, less risk is the hope. That's what the hope is. So thank you for the feedback on that. Just going to give you a real quick rundown on the Oregon Association of Realtors. First of all, that's the website, OregonRealtors.org. And I want you to notice one thing. This is just a little pet thing of mine, so I'm just going to acknowledge that. Realtors, this is the trademark. Should always be capitalized with a trademark R behind it. That's the standardized way that NAR would like you to be able to present that. So just having realtor in small letters or an R with a realtor with no trademark, this is their preferred, what they're looking at is the actual realtor trademark. So if you take a look at your advertising and your signs and flyers and stuff, just get it all in caps with the trademark sign. If you don't know how to do that, you all know how to do that in Word to get the R in the circle. You just hit the parentheses for the left side, capital R, hit the parentheses on the other side, and it automatically makes a little circle R. TM, copyright. Yeah, puts them in the little circle. No, not that complicated.
Something I see a lot on social media or other postings is a lot of people call themselves licensed realtors.
Yes.
That's not correct. You're a licensed
No.
broker or principal broker.
Yes.
That's a licensing body. A realtor is you're a member of the trade organization. So
And-
you're not a licensed realtor.
And that's the whole point, because you can only be a realtor if you belong to the National Association of Realtors. So if you're a licensed realtor, and that's true, then I suppose that would be right. But the way they're using it means a licensed broker. Okay, so again, they want to make sure we make that difference, distinction. They've got the hotline, which we mentioned before, 17,000 plus members. You're a very large organization. It was established in 1932. And the purpose here is to, again, advance to practice the real estate profession in an ethical, profitable, and successful manner.
One thing to back up on the toolkit comment, that's intended to be a members only use.
Yes.
That's why it's not on the front page, whereas the buyer and seller advisory are intended to be consumer driven.
Ah.
We want you to use them as a resource for you to provide the consumer benefit. Consumer went to our front page and clicked on that, that's great. I mean, it
Yeah.
reflects on you, but we don't want them to get to the toolkit.
So it's basically kind of like a little hidden page. It's your internal.
You be able to log
Yes.
in, it should be easy to find, but, no.
Okay, they've got 15-member executive committee headed by the president of the association plus 100-member boards of directors. They represent 24 local associations and boards across the state, and they hold a lot of educational seminars, and risk management services is what they provide. And again, political and legislative advocacy is one of the things we talked about before, which is of great value, and professional standards training and enforcement. The Code of Ethics, which is interesting, is usually incorporated a lot into state laws. I find that doing the Code of Ethics in all 50 states, it's amazing what I see, how they almost just draw directly from the Code of Ethics and enforce state law with that. So it's pretty neat. Okay, we're going to do a quick thing on the national overview in terms of some just stuff to think about. I'm on page 27. And the overview itself is, first of all, for you to think beyond just your doors. I'd like you to identify in your group, and so whenever we see the hands around the table like this, then I'm going to ask at random, get at least 3 feedback from you, 3 areas regarding the law that you feel are the biggest exposure to principal brokers in general. What is your biggest exposure? What do you worry about? What keeps you up at night? So I'm going to give you about 3 minutes at your table, and then I'm going to ask for 3 opportunities when we come back. So about 3 minutes. All right, if you can hear the sound of my voice, please go shh. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. I'm going to go over here to group number 3. Haven't heard from you much. Give me one thing that keeps you up at night.
Well, we started with agent practices, which encompasses a whole lot, but it's what are the agents doing that we don't know about? And one of those things is, how are they writing contracts? And are they properly writing it, making sure that we see it first? It was also mentioned when they're out showing property. Are there any liabilities when they're out at the properties, leaving houses open on, just sloppy practices?
Okay. Sloppy agent practices. Makes sense to me. Over here we got one, yes?
Well, I think that all stems from inadequate or lack of sufficient training,
Okay.
particularly for new agents, but not necessarily just new agents.
Not all of it.
Yeah.
I see
Like I'm
veterans who've
saying,
been in it for 25 years that lead. I had one just a couple weeks ago, left the slider door open on a listing. Now, it's a good thing I went back up to fill my flyers, but it was 2 days later. And that door sat open, 25-year veteran.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how much training her brokerage is giving her, but you also have to take into consideration, if you've been doing this that long.
It's an apathy you get. Once you get good at what you're doing, you get an apathy and you don't think you need to be refreshed on it. Over here, thank you.
Well, if you have a pulse and you can get through an online class and pass it, you become a realtor.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it just stems from changing the requirements and what it takes, because when somebody passes their test, they are no way ready to get out there and work with buyers.
No, they don't know anything about the business of real estate. So, okay, thank you. Yes?
I want to piggyback on what was just said, because I was part of the group that helped form this structure of this class. And this class came from that exact conversation.
Yeah.
And where does it start? With us. That's why we're in this room. That's why this class was created, because we are the ones that influence the broker behavior. And if you just have to sit online and do that, we're the ones that get to hold it to the higher standard. So so just to give everyone a sense of background, that's exactly why we're in this room. We are the ones that are going to change the behavior. And it's the people that aren't in this room.
That's what we were saying. That's exactly what came out of our
You're not the
mouth.
problem.
Okay. Okay. Over here?
And I have to agree with Colin, because we've dealt with agents, though, for instance, a 25-year veteran that left something open, and you call the principal broker, you call him, and he goes, no big deal. And you call the principal broker, and they go, so what? And so we've had that conversation with some principal brokers here, and I've called them and said, hey, this needs to be fixed. And they go, yeah, well, whatever. And it's frustrating. So again, you have to have people who want to get better and who want to train their agents and get better need to be here. And so it's the lack of the people that aren't here that we all have to worry about as well.
So you find that you end up picking up for other sides or trying to fix up, and it ends up almost as double work. So that cooperation and the competition makes it much harder for us to do what we have to do. That makes sense. So that keeps you up at night. One more thing. Here?
Agents who pretend expertise they don't have. They
Okay.
either act like a lawyer, or I've got one who's a general contractor as well, and he told one person they didn't need a home inspection. They just need a town. And I said, well, you got to get your very own E&O there.
All right, so we've got agents that are overstepping their bounds, right? Agents that are overstepping their bounds in the cause to be helpful or expedient or whatever those reasons may be. So when we look at those things, identifying those, did you have one more?
I think it's really important that we know one another in the business, because you can have a difficult seller or a difficult buyer in a transaction. But if the realtor that you're going with is a professional, you can voice what your seller is thinking or saying, or what your buyer is thinking or saying, but they know what needs to be done. And they'll listen and they'll share that in the right way with their client, but they'll still get things done the way they should get done.
So it's more of a collaborative.
It is. Dad and I recently did one, and he knows and I know we had strong parties on both sides, and it was a lot of pull and tug. And I think we both did a good job of communicating what the other side was thinking, but then there were addendums that came through that dealt with what needed to be dealt with, and then it was up to us to get our client to do those things. But it was great because it was in black and white, and this is how we had to proceed, and we were going to get it done. Wasn't always easy for the two of us, but it happened.
Can I take another spin on this? And how many of you have known agents that are the problem? They get in the way of the transaction. They act like they're the ones that own the house or are the ones buying the house, and they're not transparent, and they shut things down. So that gets a little appalling as well, that they don't understand what representation is supposed to be like and collaboration in order to move to a successful end. Yes?
Does this area, and I'm unfamiliar with Grants Pass and Medford board, but do you have a principal broker form that you hold in your area?
Yes, we do. And the
See,
same
that's what
group
we're-
usually shows up at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing, is trying to get the people, again, it's the people that attend that are the problem, but we don't even have that, and that's part of my goal as director for Curry County
Cool.
Board. Realtors get, and a newly licensed principal broker, is to get a principal broker form over there, so everybody's on the same page. And we discuss the issues that are pertinent and come back from the governance meetings and how they're applicable to making sure that we're all within the guidelines.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that, everybody.
Our bar does one about once a quarter, is that about right?
Yeah.
But,
They haven't been consistent.
but the city, the brokers in Grants Pass decided they needed it more often, so they needed to do that for the company once a month, and this is bounce ideas on.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to just hold everybody accountable. And express the need for in-house training through all the brokerages.
Okay. So with these, and notice what we've done, we've started with a funnel, now we're starting to do now and get more and more specific as we move down through these things. So here's the first thing I'd like you to do. I'm going to give you an opportunity for just a couple minutes, is I'd like you to just write down anything that you feel personally, just in your sheet. This is not for you to share with anyone. What do you think right now? Take a moment of reflection from what we've talked about or some of these issues that we've raised. I mean, we take a look at how our world is changing, which you pointed out very nicely here with our millennials coming up in the way that they do business. But what if we're old guard? And so we're trying to manage new people coming in and maybe the way we do it doesn't reflect the way they want to do it. Could that be an issue? And then what could you do to start getting better? How do you address this issue so that you can be more effective? Because none of this makes any sense unless we take some time to write down some action items. And then I'm going to give you a suggestion here for your business planning efforts, which we'll get into deeply on day 4. Once you go through and take a look at writing a few of the things that you want to do, you know how many of you will have to-do items that might be like 100 items long? Using Juki, and you're trying to figure out you're fighting fires, and then you're going to get back to this and get back to that. Well, one of the best strategic planners that I know, his name's Mark LeBlanc out of Minnesota, really a delightful guy, changed my life about 6 years ago, and I've been teaching this ever since with his permission. It's about a rolling 90 days. When you get into your business planning, starting on day 4, they're going to be teaching you how to do mind mapping, how to be able to do action plan solving using cloud charting. It's going to be really a fun event for you to solve almost any problem very quickly and very effectively by taking a methodical approach towards problem solving. But you're going to come up with a lot of to-dos. Well, the point is that you have the 80-20 rule. 20% of what you do has an 80% impact. And so what you do is you look at all these to-dos that might come out of these 4 days, and then you identify the top 3 that'll have the biggest impact for you. So is it going to make a difference? Is it going to make a difference for the public, make a difference for your processing, admin, whatever it might be in terms of success? And then you implement them and monitor over 90 days. And as a rolling 90 days, instead of having an annual plan, you'll have a long-range plan you're going to look at, but you're going to look at 90 days, implement those 3 things, get them locked and loaded over 90 days, and then load in 3 more. And then get those implemented, locked and loaded in 3 more, because we're going to be talking about job descriptions, policy manuals, all these things. What is going to have the biggest impact for you? So more bang for the buck, 80-20 rule, priority, urgent, and it's going to have a long-lasting effect on your business. That's what we're looking at, and then implement those 3 at a time. If you do more than 3 objectives, I did a lot of strategic planning for associations. You do too many, you're never going to get them done. You did nibbled a little bit at everything. Finish it. Get it started and get it finished, okay? You're going to find that you're going to love it, and you're going to not believe how much you're going to be able to get done in a relatively short period of time. So with that being said, thank you for spending a few moments to write down a few things to reflect on and possibly implement. We're going to, yes?
Sorry to interrupt. Before we move on, back to that slide which you said, what do you get out of OAR, the relationship with the agency? I have an answer for you on your original thing, because I just spoke with them. So on the MLS data field, RBN in, they said if it's something you don't have control over, it's okay. So you print that sheet out for your clients, and your RBN is abbreviated because the data field won't allow it, you're good. You recreate any marketing material, which makes sense. Anything you create, you better have a full RBN in there. But if it's out of your MLS, because of limitations out of your control, no problem, not a violation.
That's nice to know, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Jenny.
So that third
That's
time's
what
a
we
lighter.
got at OAR.
Yeah,
Me
that's
too.
Hey!
It's worth every penny of your dues, that answer.
Good to know.
Makes me sorry I already paid for the legal hotline.
Oh.
Just answered my big question.
Well, see, you got your money's worth.
Yeah. Okay, let's do antitrust. We've moved through fair housing. We've taken a look at some of the general national laws and some of the administrative things to look at. And we're going to move into antitrust again, teaching to the most conservative. And then you decide where you want to take it from here. So antitrust real estate. Let's get started first of all with the quiz. I'm going to turn that light back on. You should see that coming up right here. There's about, I think, 10 questions. Go ahead and answer them. I'll be back in about 3 or 4 minutes. Oh, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and I'll just give you the answers to each one of these, and let's go through it methodically. Number 1, committing an antitrust offense and appearing to commit an offense that can make the real estate professional equally liable. True or false? It is true. So even though you didn't plan or want to do it intentionally, it doesn't make any difference. It just has the appearance of you're going to be brought into an antitrust possible lawsuit. Next one, exploitive split is designed by a broker to minimize their income from the sale of their own listings, maximize their income from the sale of the listings of others, and minimize their costs of cooperation. Okay, here we go. Exploitive split. I am on the MLS, and if you want to show my listings, I will only pay you 0.5% if you show my listings as a buyer's agent. But I expect to collect the full 20% when I show your listings. For example, purposes only. Notice I'm using absurd numbers, not trying to come up with something locally. So when you want to sell my stuff, I'm going to make it really low to compensate you because I want to keep all the money for me, and then I expect you to split it in half and pay it to me. That's what I mean by maximize and minimize. So this is exactly opposite. So this is a false statement. What you want to do is maximize your income from the sale of your own listings and minimize on the other. So that is a false statement. It's meant to confuse you. Next, number 3. Antitrust allows 2 brokers to get together and decide the amount of cooperative compensation to offer a third broker. True or false? That is false. So the thing is that you do your business plans, you decide what you're going to do, and the moment I include somebody else on that discussion, I may be stepping into antitrust. And you want to know how bad it is? There's a guy in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He was the broker manager of a large company, about 150 agents, and he would be called a medium-sized agent there. And then there was one from a large company. They were just having coffee at a Starbucks. There's another agent that's sitting 2 tables over. 2 tables over. These 2 brokers are having a conversation. One got up, the medium-sized company, threw his coat over his shoulder and said, we call it a throwaway, I don't know about you, but I'm going to raise my commission and keep it at X% because I need to make sure I'm making a profit. And he walks out. Licensee over here went all the way up to the Trade Commission. Said antitrust price fixing happening in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Turned him in. The guy was sent to jail for 3 years and a $100,000 fine for that throwaway statement in a Starbucks. So if you think I'm not deadly serious about that, I am. And he went around the country for 5 years talking about his experience. All it takes is one person that wants to get you. Okay? One person watching like a hawk for you to make a move. Okay? So with that being said, as instructors, we're very careful about monitoring what happens in a classroom and that we take great care. And if I could have that first switch pop down so that gets a little brighter up here for me. Thank you. I just also, when we look at broker forums that are coming in, you have to be particularly careful about antitrust. Because you can't be trying to set things or do things in collusion or cooperation that could have the appearance of a collective gathering together and making decisions that impact the public. Then you may end up possibly having an antitrust problem. Our next one, antitrust. It's important to distinguish between a single firm and a group of competitors. True or false? True. Absolutely true. So it's important to know whether it's just one person. If you and I were all in the same company, I can talk about anything. Whoever I want, who's ever out there, it's fine. We're all collective here. But because you're all from different companies, I can't. Because boycotting language, cooperation, all those things come into play. So when you're working with one, you're fine with your own people. Some people ask about branches. Some of you have satellite offices. So if you're under one name, but what if you're not? What if you have one broker owner, but maybe he owns different companies? If they're different, I've seen that before where they have different company names because they're doing different brands. Have you seen that? Like a modern one and an old-fashioned one, whatever it might be. Different business models, everything's different. They do different companies. Well, can they technically talk with each other? Can those agents talk with each other? And I'm not going to be able to give you an answer because I don't know until there's a suit that comes up and they'll decide that for you.
Yes, no, but the guy up there, both of them can talk to.
That's what I would think, but again, I'm not going to offer an answer on that because I'm not an attorney. Number 5, as part of an antitrust office compliance program, legal documents such as corporate articles, bylaws, and minutes should be kept on file. Which one of those? Forever. Yep, it's permanently. Permanently. It will cost you a minimum of $10,000 to defend yourself in an antitrust lawsuit. To defend yourself. Whether you were guilty or not makes no difference. So get ready. I'd rather avoid that. So keep these records on file, why you made the decision to set your commission or your compensation plans. Keep that all on file so that you can go back and refer to them if it's ever called into question, because you just need to defend yourself and then hopefully not be found guilty. Our next one, when a broker decides to raise commission fees, they should do each of the following except. So what have I got? C, absolutely. Discussing reasons for the change with members of the local board. You don't talk to them about it. Absolutely do not. Which of the following is a topic which brokers can discuss at a board meeting? You bet. Violations, because we're talking about the policies and procedures of your MLS system. Yep.
We realize that we can't talk about commission rates with each other, but also I don't think a lot of us realize we can't talk about compensation, our compensation strategies within our firm.
You will not want to be talking about, and it's a good point, you're just not going to be talking about your business with another business owner. You're just not going to do it. And especially if you're foolish enough to do it in a public place where anyone can overhear you or watch or take pictures of you. A nanny cam. Yeah, this could be a camera, people. No, it's over there. I'm still not 10 pounds lighter, am I? It's not working. I've been working so hard. So yes, you want to be careful now whether you want to choose to publicize your compensation levels entirely up to you. I mean, that's it. I don't know if you really want to do that, but you can probably do it. I don't know if that's a good plan. So taking a look at your recruiting efforts and how you're going to publicize that is really going to be questionable. We've got a couple case studies we're going to go through in just a moment. But the liability involving antitrust, what have you seen? Have you ever seen anything where you just go, uh-oh, and you want to run? And don't mention anybody because that could be boycott language. Don't want to do that, so if they're not here, don't look at them. Okay.
So my question like to our Cascade Board of Directors, as an outlying director, I was calling around to some of the agencies who were not showing up for any of the stuff. I said, why aren't you guys coming? They said, well, because until so-and-so, those bullies, start doing 50-50 splits, we're not going to deal with it. So then I got back to the board, and they said, so what did you find out? And I'm like, it's difficult.
Because that would be, yeah, you can't be having that discussion. And the fact that probably you probably wanted to throw up when they pointed that out. Okay, over here.
The one that I see people fall into the trap of all the time is not related to commission structure as much as new business models.
Yeah.
When something new comes along and we don't understand it, we're more likely to try and diss on it and say they're disruptive and I'm not going to work with them. And people, the biggest offenders are on Facebook on our behalf, our agents, on their out of control, and they get into all kinds of stuff. I mean, they're talking about let's boycott Zillow. You can get on there today and you'll find it. Mm-hmm. They'll do it. And they say that. And they don't, I've gone to sites and say, this is antitrust, you can't talk, here's a link to the NAR piece. I've gotten booted out of rooms just for saying that on there. Because they think, oh, you're just, you can talk about this stuff. Like, you have no idea how big and how serious it gets very quickly if that hits the right attorney.
And then every single person, there, it's out and it's gone. It's gonna. I want to make sure that if you don't have a good antitrust attorney or know of one, I don't know, Jenny, do you know of any good antitrust attorneys in the state of Oregon who specialize in that? Because you're going to want one that specializes in antitrust.
It's a cash cow for those attorneys, so they make a lot of money. And you get, your class actions, and you get your $1.32 check.
Yeah.
So they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars on those cases.
Yep. Because it's the appearance of. So you do know of some names that if they wanted to call you, you could give them do their due diligence, but.
Yes, but also remember, look at your NAR, if you have law association-wise, forget on the brokerage side. Your policies, you should contact them first and foremost if you find yourself faced with an antitrust, because if your insurance will pay, that's the route you want to go for the attorney rather than it coming out of your own pocket. So.
Thank you. Yes.
What if I'm having a conversation with my managing principal broker about the commission for a specific property, and I know that broker X, not in my group, has offered X percent because the client has told me that. And I'm going in to find out whether or not it's worth me trying to beat that commission. Is that okay? Because I'm not talking I'm talking specifics. Broker X has offered X commission, and the seller called me and said, if you'll beat that, I'll go with you. Is that
That's
a problem?
All you would say is, I can't talk about the other company's practices, and here is, with our proper meeting and discussion, I'll be happy to chat with you about what compensation level we provide. I'm going to hedge it.
To talk to my managing
You can
principal
talk
broker.
to in-house.
Uh-huh.
What you learn, you can talk with each other. Okay? But you just can't pull someone else from XYZ company over here and say, did you hear what this broker's doing over there? Can't do that. But in-house, you can talk about what might be happening out in the marketplace, okay? But when that seller calls you like that, you just say, all I can do is present to you what it is that we do, and it's more than commission. Because if you're only selling on commission, you realize that, right? You've probably already lost it. If you're going to start bargaining on that. Even though we know what fast-paced world this is, we want to build that solidness. So it's a great question. Yes?
Just a follow-up to that. So if, say she normally charges 20%, just to use basic.
Yep, for example purposes only.
And that person was charging 18, and so in this instance she said, I'll do 17 and a half. Would that be a violation because it's different than her norm?
Only what you said as principal brokers. You said it, right? You decide as principal brokers whether you can deviate from what the commission levels are, and if you do choose to deviate, what is going to be the impact? Is that not in your policies? So some of them, we have different models where you can do whatever you want. You're an independent operation underneath my umbrella, charge whatever you want, I don't care. So again, you got to go back to your policies and procedures. Again, getting into bidding wars usually does not end up well. All right, we take a look at your exercise of where your brokerage might have an exposure. I need you to think about that for a moment. And if a name comes up, put it down. Only within your brokerage. If you've got a walking lawsuit, put them down. And sit down and have a conversation with them. If they're really big about going out, sharing, they share too much. Too much. Or they say that, that's great. Boycotting language. They get too aggressive. Did you ever see the program called Caught on Tape? It was a big, huge program that went out, happened up. Was that not sobering? And it was years ago. This was about 9 years ago, and I was really sorry to see that it was canceled. But we had a licensee up in, I think it was Wisconsin. It was either Minnesota or Wisconsin. She was an alternative type broker. I'm just going to use that time, alternative pricing, unique broker. 3 other brokers decided that they would go to all of her listings and talk to the sellers to fire her because no one's going to work with her, all this boycotting language, and they went from person to person to person. They made the mistake of visiting a listing of hers where the doctor was the best friend of her family. So he calls them up and says, these 3 agents did this, they spent an hour with me outlining all the reasons why I should fire you, et cetera, et cetera. It ended up that her business tanked. It tanked. She lost everything and she left the town. And she went back 2 years later. She set up an actor, husband and wife, in a rental. Cameras everywhere. Interviewed 20 of the licensees in that town. Only 2 did not end up settling for antitrust violations by the conversations they had caught on tape at a kitchen table. So something as simple as, how do you feel about John charging so much? Well, John will do anything. Boom, you're done. What do you think of this about the market and working on the lakes? Nobody works on the lake. The lake is mine. Boom, you're done. Bad talking, splits, exploitive splits, all of this, you could have the appearance of, and they settled. And she was able to make a significant amount of money and then create a course and went nationwide with it for about 5 years. Gave people hives because you could hear the actual audio. You would hear this going from 20 of the sales associates. Let's take a look at the overview. Make you be cautious because it's more serious than you think. We're going to promote and protect competition. I love this. So promote and protect. It's governed by the Federal Trade Commission, and it applies to act between multiple companies and not practices within the company itself. That's the first thing to make sure we really keep that clear. Next, the appearance of violating is as actionable as actually doing it. So that throwaway statement, whatever they made, it had the appearance of price fixing, and it has to be at someone who could impact market. So if it was a person that had a sole proprietorship, just one broker talking with another single broker, the odds of them impacting what the market's going to do is probably really slim. But because there was a medium level and a high level brokerage in town, now it could impact possibly. People follow what others do. You know that, right? They follow what others do, they do their research, and so they could be setting a trend.
In your Starbucks question, did both brokers?
Just
did
the
it
one who
all
did the
over?
statement.
So the innocent person who sat there like, oh.
He was
didn't get it?
he was called into the suit, but he was not. He was able to defend himself because he hadn't responded to it, and was able to prove that. And the guy testified that he did not respond to it, but it still cost him $10,000 to get out of it. Monitor online and physical mailings. Antitrust. So by going in and just seeing what's coming to you and what's going out, we will. Our commission is 10%, and we will save you $500 on average of what's happening in the marketplace. I've seen stuff like that. Other companies charge between this, but we'll charge this and save you. The moment you start saying save you, you're actually referring to a comparison. Would that make sense? You have to have a baseline to compare against. So what you do is if you want to advertise your commission, I charge 20%. That's all you do. Stop. This is what I charge. And then let them make the decision. Would that make sense? Do not say, and we will save you, because now you're doing a benchmark and making an assumption that they might want to refer to. Again, most conservative is where I'm going. You decide where you want to go with that. Documenting business decisions, again, document every reason why you do different things. So price fixing is collusion to maintain or increase services, compensation, pricing. That's price fixing. Now, I want to see what you think about this, and we'll find out if you can be the judge. You read the local real estate advertising section daily. Today, an advertisement from a leading competitor reads as follows: our listing fee of 10% will save you hundreds of dollars over the regular 12% fee charged by the other companies in the area. And what's your responsibility when you see this? Is this an antitrust violation, yes or no? Yes. Where did it go wrong? Right there, okay? And when they went there, regular, then you have a problem. What's your responsibility? You see this. It's not your company. You see this. What do you do? I wanted to do a parody on the Ghostbusters song. Who are you going to call? Your realtor. Something strange in the neighborhood. Who are you going to call? Your realtor. Wouldn't that be awesome? I really wanted to do that, but I didn't want to pay the royalty rights on that. Yeah, there we go. So really, seriously, would any of you turn in the other company? Would you call them and say, you've just done a major antitrust violation, pull it out? What's your first reaction to this?
My first reaction would be to call another broker, PBA, and try to make sure, alert them. They blew me off, then everything's fair game.
Okay.
But they should have an opportunity to fix it.
So for cooperation purposes, hey dude, did you check out what was in the paper today? And did you know this went out? Yeah, what's the big deal? And like I said, blow you off, then now there's another step and say, okay.
I work in an extremely small market, and I can tell you my managing principal broker will never approach another managing principal broker about anything. I mean, whether it's a specific transaction, he's got a very hands-off approach, good, bad, or indifferent. And he certainly would never, he'd just say, oh, well, that's just too bad,
Because you don't want to do what?
Annoy the other folks and not be able to compromise.
And then it upsets the apple cart, and then all of a sudden you've got a gang war. Realtor group A and B, West Side Story, until two realtors fall in love.
There's always a way to handle it.
Yeah.
My usual way is I call the other agent, the other principal broker, and say, hey, listen to what our two knuckleheads have gotten into. How are we going to fix this?
Okay. So again, the cooperation piece of it is notify. Would you appreciate a call? Yeah. If that happened, rather than someone going right straight over to the FCC and then having them come down with a subpoena and all of a sudden take care of business for you, that would not be too cool. Now, it doesn't mean that someone from the public couldn't turn you in. Could be anybody because you're out there. It's an ad in the paper. And I had a response over here. Someone?
Well, the discount brokerages all the time have.
Okay, no, stop. Okay, I have to stop, and I'm going to do what's called the cold technique right here. And you actually did what I needed you to do, so I want to thank you for that. Okay? So it's a learning moment. The cold technique by Maurice Bodek is simply this. Because you mentioned a specific type of brokerage, you now could be getting into boycotting language. And even though I didn't let you finish, because I can't let you finish, I got to make you stop because I'm an instructor. So the cold says, I suspect collusion because there's other brokers in the room. I object to the statement that you're making. I am going to leave. You can't leave because you still have 2 more hours left. I'm going to leave, and then everybody's going to document. That's the cold technique. Collusion, object, leave, and document your pants off on whatever happens here. And I do that for the simple protection that if I hadn't stopped you, it is possible someone here in the room could say, Carol didn't control this, and I could also be subject to an antitrust lawsuit just as easily. So what we do is we will have the conversation privately over here if you want to have that question, because I am not a licensed broker in Oregon and couldn't be perceived as competition. So thank you for doing that. Would you all give him applause, please? Happens every time in my class, every time, because you just don't realize how easy it is to slide into it. So easy. All right, so with that, let's move on to the next one. As a principal broker, you received a call from a potential client of your broker, Sarah Secure. Yes.
Last example, let's play that out in the sense of, let's say call the other principal broker.
You bet.
And the other principal broker pretty much said, go pound sand, you know what you're talking about, blah, I can do whatever I want. Who do you, at that point, you call next?
I would probably call an antitrust attorney. That would be my first call because it's about damages. But I would say, look, I want them to be penalized and I want this practice to stop. Okay, because it's impacting all of us as realtors, and then they're going to make the decision, and then you may probably report it up to the FCC. Yeah. You go up to the national level because it's a national law. FCC, Federal Trade Commission, FTC.
Oh, that's why
I can't spell. That's how we spell in Missouri. We call the Federal Trade Commission FCC. That's what we do. There you go. There you go. All right, so thank you for that. Cool. Here's our next one, people. As principal broker, receive a call from a potential client of your broker, Sarah Secure. Potential clients are wondering why they have to work with Sarah to list their house in order to use the services of her husband, Levi Secure, single owner of Best Rates Financial, for the purchase of their next home. Sarah is a top broker in the area, but the potential clients really want to use their own friend, Allie Reed, a broker with another company to sell their home. They really like the mortgage options at Best Rate Financial, but Levi won't work with them unless they use Sarah. So my question is this a violation of antitrust? It's called a tying arrangement. You can't have this unless you do that. It also will impact how much market. If it's a really small town and they have 50% market share, she's a big agent in town, everybody seems to go, could that be possible that now we're limiting their choices, and it's called a tying arrangement. So be careful about these alternatives. I've been seeing more and more husband and wife things happening, and the feeders that are going back and forth, or you must work with this agent over here or this person over there. Be really careful on doing the musts. Say it is an opportunity for you. In-house is getting really big, right? In-house lenders, in-house attorneys. Are you doing a lot of that in Oregon? Oh, interesting. Because maybe the trend's reversing the other way. Because before we wanted everyone under the umbrella, right? And so you come in here, and anyone that comes in here goes over to this person, and then you go here, and we get to make money off of each one of these units, right? Could step into this, especially if you're not providing options. And see, the average public may not know any better. I didn't know any better. I thought that's where I had to go. And then what if they mess up? So we're seeing some issues coming with that. So just be careful when we deal with tying arrangements. Boycott. This is what you look like. You look just like that. So if you go down the street and you see someone looking at you like that, you're being boycotted. And you go, boycott! If you do that, I'll be mortified. So just don't do that. Just look at them and look back at them like that. All right, so that's actually a vulture look. That's what my son used to call my look. He called me the vulture look. Scared the daylights out of him when I did that. Firm's refusal to deal with another firm if the refusing firm refuses for the purpose of trying to monopolize the market. So let me look at that. I got refusal in there how many times? This is basically an English language exercise. A firm's refusal to deal with another firm if the refusing firm refuses for the purpose of trying to monopolize the market. So the firm's refusal, here's the thing, boycott. I'm not going to work with you. I hate your face. I just hate your face. I hate everything about you. I hate your family. I hate your dog. I hate everything about you. I refuse to work with you, and I'm going to make sure everybody knows. That's boycotting. How about a guy in Chicago, Illinois, new real estate licensee, sent out a letter to a gal's listings. She had 25 of them. He hated her because she wouldn't help him. She wouldn't mentor him, and he hated her face. So he sent a letter out to all of these people saying, I hate so-and-so, and we're going to have a case study to have you come back and decide how that should be handled. Okay? New licensee. When we look at boycotting, zip it. You love everybody. From right now, can we just say it together? I love you all. Just say it together. We're all together, and I love you. I love you. You can't do it, can you? You're having trouble with that. Some of you actually quivered just a little bit. Won't do it. You were like, you're just. So here's the reality. If you can't say something nice, zip it. Bite your tongue till it bleeds. Until it bleeds. But here's where our problem is. What if that other person could really damage someone? Do you want to help? You know what's probably going to go down. These will be conversations we're going to have because now we get into the realm of HR. What are we going to do and how are we going to help that? I saw a question over here. Nope.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actual case, a agent set up a private chat room on Facebook, blacklisting an appraiser because this appraiser was blowing up deals.
Yeah.
Set up and invited other agents to join the chat room, and all the other agents were chiming in. Oh yeah, she blew up my deal. Yeah, boom, 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 boom.
Every last one.
Came right before the professional standards committee because
Yep.
actually heard the case.
Well, I'll take it one step further. We have a gal that I became aware of because I had a company ask me to audit social media for their 10 sales associates. Wanted me to see what I can find on social media, and it was in Alabama. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. I'm not going to charge anything, but let me just see what I can find out. I was a little mortified. The one that got me the worst was when I saw on there, this one gal said, I hate, well, use the name Jane Doe of XYZ Realty. I hate her so much, I think she ought to die. So I'm going to ask all of my 2,000 closest friends, what do you think would be the best way to kill her and not get caught? Put that on Facebook. 75 people responded. And the winner, who earned a $25 gift certificate, was a hammer. A hammer.
Now, when we see this on Dateline.
Yes. Or it could be reality TV. We're not sure.
Well, here's what she did. No, it's more than that. Because when I called the broker and then I revealed what I printed it out, and of course she's gagging on the, are you, what? You know, couldn't believe what was going on there. She knew there was some sort of a feud, but had no idea in social media. She fired the licensee. The licensee was charged with antitrust violation and boycotting language, and she was also on attempted soliciting murder and went to prison. And she kept saying the whole time, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. It was just a joke. No, it's called being stupid. Okay? So we look at these people, as I said, walking lawsuit. I can teach you how to do this. And you can laugh when you see, oh, look at you, walking lawsuit. And it's a lot of fun, and use that, and it'll help you keep things in perspective. Collusion between firms on a group boycott. If you followed anything in Iowa, Iowa Realty and RE/MAX. Any of you follow that happening? This was where Iowa Realty was getting really upset with the RE/MAXes because they were selling all of their listings. So they weren't getting both sides like they really wanted. And so they decided that they were going to only pay RE/MAX a portion, a small portion of the buyer's fees than what they would pay everybody else. And they made it public all the way across. Yes?
Okay, this is a big issue in our area, where there's one thing posted in the MLS, and the firms pay out something different to some and not to others, depending on who the buyer's agent is. But they always have to pay what's in the MLS. They're not changing that number but sometimes they're paying more to other agents. Is that an antitrust?
Well, here's the only response I can have, because I'm not an attorney, is are commissions negotiable?
Yes.
And that's the only response I can have, and I'll have to refer you to an attorney to ask on that. But my guess is, because it's not being publicized, if it's being publicized as an activity, then it would step into that public arena. But I don't know if you're saying it's a matter of fairness, I'm going to have you go to an attorney.
I would like to make a comment that I think a overlooked issue with antitrust is if you're offering a discount, if you get the other side and you're not disclosing that in the MLS.
Oh, that's the variable dual rate? The variable dual rate. So you may call it discount.
Every MLS that I've ever seen is it does in-house broker fee differ if it's in-house. You have to check that, yes.
Yep, you check it.
If you have that agreement.
And is it the buyer's agent responsibility to call the listing agent and say, there's a dual variable rate in place? Please share, right? Do you have your agent share what the dual variable rate is? Because, well, let me walk this. Well, I'll get into agency too quickly, but you're representing the seller. Your job is not to just get both sides of the commission. That's not your job. Your job is to do what? A seller hires you to do what? Sell their house. So why wouldn't I share with a buyer's agent what the dual variable rate might be so that they can be as competitive on any other possible offers that might come in? Just a question I'm going to throw out. So that's where I'm going to go with agency, so just get ready for the headache. I'm just preparing you for that, okay? Because sometimes your self-interest goes beyond what you technically should be doing with representation. So with that, I'm going to move on. Discount. Dual variable rate must be disclosed. Okay, territory. We have some of you, are any of them from Salem? Any from Salem? Oh, I got a few here. Most of you are from Medford. Anyone else from a smaller community up in the mountains? Anyone up in the mountain area? You are? Okay. Here's a classic example of territory. I am from here, and I go up into your hillside, and I put a sign in there, and you call me up and go, this is my mountain. It's mine, all mine. I'm the only one that can know what's going on here. It's mine, it's mine. Do you? See, it just takes a little practice because it just comes from the belt. Mine, it's mine, yeah. I can talk like a man, watch out. Okay, so when we look at that, it's prohibiting people around the lake. We're the lake realtors. You can't come in here. That's territory prohibited. You can't do that. So everybody, if you got a license in Oregon, you can sell anywhere you want. The thing is, do you want to if you don't know the inventory and you're not part of the MLS? That's the question, and it is a good business sense to do so. But the license is an Oregon license. Would you agree? Oregon license. So with that being said, you're entering into antitrust as someone starts doing that. Territory protection is the term.
If they don't belong to the local MLS,
So
we don't have to work with them, or at least they can do whatever they want, but we don't have to pay them a commission.
you will negotiate that up front because commission and selling the home are two different things. A good buyer's agent will sell the right home regardless of whether there's a commission or not. Uh-oh, did I say something incredible?
That's what fiduciary means.
But that's what I mean. So you're right, but again, for your seller, your right is to be able to make sure that home is open for a possible purchase. So when you start placing your self-interest in front of someone else or you're doing protection territory, this is where it gets into antitrust. So we got to stay on topic there. Yes?
So, what we're starting to see nationally is MLS is merging.
Yes.
You're going to see more and more of this
Yes.
as that happens.
I think at some point with all the regionalization that's been going on, this step, it's going to get bigger and bigger because we already have kind of national access anyway. You got people from all over the world able to go in to these different sites and find what they need. So I think it's a natural trend. But stepping into the territory, I think it's going to loosen up. I don't think we're going to see that so much because just the internet itself is going to change that. That's my thought. It'll loosen it. Okay, client prohibition. They're mine. How dare you talk to my sellers? I know they closed last month, but they're mine. I curse you. I mean, you know they do that. They yell at you. They call you on the phone. The moment the transaction closes, they are free, like free-range chickens. Anybody can gather up that seller and Do you realize? I get so excited about free-range chicken sellers. You've never heard of that analogy, have you? So the moment they close, boom, it's wide open. Too bad, too sad, you didn't do a good enough job, or you didn't stay in contact with them, or you didn't do what you're going to do, you're not going to come after me. We're now client prohibition. Can't do that. That's an antitrust violation. Can't do that. And I will tell them very clearly, and I will send them a segment of the antitrust law, and it shuts them up really quick. Yes?
So I've stopped putting the address and information on offers of the buyers because I found that when deals didn't go, they would get calls from the other agents that were on the other side of the transactions trying to basically fish those people to double.
But they're stepping into an agency, whether the thing concluded or not, they're stepping into agency that may or may not exist. Oh. That's so
in Oregon, if there's not a buyer's service agreement.
We're going to talk about that. I'm going to stop right now because I want to make sure that I follow that properly because I don't want to get off. But you're right. So here we go. Let's look at the next thing here, client prohibition. Case study number 6. What do you do? Don't work with her. And we're going to take a break in about 15 minutes. This will be on case study. Someone yell it out here. Yeah, we're on page 31. I'd like you just to read this quickly, talk within your groups, give you about 3 minutes or so, and then we'll see what you would do. All right, I'm going to jump in on this one quickly. Let's go. Shh. Anything being violated in antitrust, what is it? Boycott?
No, it's not a firm, it's an individual.
It's an individual. You're boycotting an individual as well. Falls under antitrust, not just a firm. So she's doing negative boycotting language from someone else from another company. Do we have ethics issues involved in this?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, that's the first, like, come on. You don't, could we have slander? Could it push it if that client wanted to be a witness and say, this is what she said to me?
Only if it's untrue.
Yeah, only if it's untrue. And what if it is untrue? Look how she made that very clear. Only if it's untrue. So yeah, that's absolutely correct if it's untrue.
What if the things she's saying to the potential client, though, are all true? What if she's saying, you know, you can use who you want, but I just want to warn you, and she lists off 4 things that are absolutely factually true.
This lady's a piece of work.
No, that's a subjective statement.
No, this is her opinion. She's a piece of work. Anything she writes never closes. I hate her face because her hairstyle is awful, and she spits on her clients. Those 4 things, hate her. Would that be antitrust or not?
I assume.
Yes, and it would be ethical.
I'm only going to tell you one answer. The fact that she spoke negatively about that client in order to steer someone away from her is called boycotting. It is boycott language. Regardless of whether they're true or not is irrelevant.
He even said a broader definition. The definition of boycott he says here is a firm's refusal to deal with another firm.
Yep. And I chose to do that for the principal broker's course. So the language I used is a firm chooses to boycott. Is that possible? That's the Iowa Realty and the RE/MAX. That's a basic boycott, changing prices. We're not going to have you come and pay you less. And of course, Iowa Realty prevailed twice. They did it twice. RE/MAX prevailed twice. 2 years in a row, they did that. It was like, how stupid could you be? It cost them so much money to go to court, and they lost twice. So when you look at that, but it also applies to individuals as well. Yes.
Boycott another individual and it doesn't have to be the purpose.
And it could, because they represent the firm, it'll automatically suck right back up vicarious liability. It'll go back up to the firm. What they say and do comes back straight to you. If you haven't figured that out yet, I'm not done yet. Next. All right. What administrative actions can a principal broker take to help defend a charge of violating collusion, price fixing, or boycotting? I'm just going to answer that for you very quickly because we've already talked about it. Document, document, document. How about realtor cams? Policemen have to wear them. You must wear a go cam. And on every listing appointment, and it's just a thought, you know, I'm creative. Can you imagine how intimidating that would be for a seller to have you put just a minute, let me turn on my go cam, because I have to have this thing all documented.
Tell the sellers they can't record.
That's right. Can't record them. So, bottom line, document, people. Be careful, zip it. Are the main administrative things, just zip it. They get free form at board. You wouldn't believe, they talk about listings. So what do you think? I should be doing here. And have you heard what so-and-so is doing over there? And they're starting to talk about other people's business models. And all of a sudden, you are possibly into a position that you can be turned in, whether you had intent or not. That's the whole point. That's what makes this so scary to me. Because you're walking on stuff that you can get slammed up against the wall. And I don't want you to do that. How many of you want to go to a place where you don't have a private toilet? That's why I'll never break the law. I need a private toilet in jail. You don't get one. I have seen Orange is the New Black. They have to sit there with a blanket over their head. I mean, I'm serious. Any of you are motivated like that? I am. So, again, 100,000, some of your money, I'm private toilets. It's all about the toilets. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next thing, people. Best practices in an interview. Let me wrap this section up on antitrust. Advise the potential client of the laws that restrict your ability to discuss business practices of other real estate brokerages or brokers. That's going to be important. Keep focused on what your brokerage offers and how it can benefit the potential client. And again, the goal is to compete, right? But we have to get along. So I have a really special video for you here, and it'll be a good time to take a break. But I want you to enjoy how you can be really different, but you can get along. This baby squirrel was nurtured by a family when it was left abandoned in their yard as an infant, and this cat basically nursed the squirrel to health, lived with them for a couple of years, and then they released it out to the wild. And 3 times a year, the squirrel comes back. This has been going on for about 6 years, and it comes back, and this is what happens. Good buddies, living in a different world. Who's to know if they turn off the camera and then it eats the squirrel, it doesn't go that far. But seriously, so seriously, you may be different. That's the goal of antitrust. Who cares? Let's just get along. Take a 15-minute break.